Hello everyone, and welcome back to Thomas Top Tens. I'm one of your hosts, MasterOfTheLemons, aka Lemmy.
And I'm MultiGreenThunder.
And today, we're going to be talking about our top 10 favorite buildings in the TV series. Really, it's vague what exactly this means, just structures in general, stations are an obvious one, sheds are also a thing, windmills technically count. We're going to fudge the boundaries a little bit on this, but yeah, our top 10 favorite buildings.
Yeah, if the TV show was the Wooden Railway, these are all the things that you would make as the destinations, and there's an image for your mind. Think about the actual props from the model series, but in Wooden Railway boxes. Think about that.
Yeah, what would you like to have the best? Like say Wellsworth Station, right? If you had that, you would have the platforms and the station building, and it would be really cool. So that's what we're talking about today. Is out of all those props, those building props, what are our favorites? And we're not including characters like Owen, who's like technically a building. I feel like that's going to kind of mess with the results a little bit if we have somebody like Owen, because it's like then you might be basing it on his characture. You're like, oh, hey, I like Owen.
We want to go by their aesthetic and how we like looking at it.
Yeah, like how does it look? What just in general, looking at the structure, what do you like about it? So, Multi, what is your fifth favorite?
Number 5 is Wellsworth Station, also known as Edwards Station. I want to give special credit to the wiki here for a moment, the Thomas wiki.
Because we could not have done this without them. Like, the fact that, we go through... They have an amazing selection of just every landmark that's ever been in the show.
They have all these categories of buildings, and it's so convenient to see the whole list. I mean, I know some people get upset with some random things about the Thomas Wiki, but that was one of the key things that brought me back into interest of Thomas to begin with, was finding the Thomas Wiki. So I love this thing with all my heart. And also, I'd like to say it is very convenient to the Wiki for when I search Edward for Edward Station, that Wellsworth will still come up, even though the title on the page is not Edward Station. Thank you, Wiki people. You are cool. Anyways, now let's actually talk about the dang station, because we've been going on here long enough. Wellsworth Station is so cool. One of my favorite scenes of it is my favorite time to see is usually in Season 1, Season 3, but one of my favorite scenes with it is in Flying Kipper when Henry's passing by at night and you get to see it with the modern aesthetic. I love how it has the little bridge thing that goes over to the other side, and it's
called a pedestrian bridge.
Pedestrian bridge, thank you. I don't pay enough attention to my Wooden Railway stuff, but yeah, it's got cool canopies over it and stuff, and I know Henry hates it with an immense passion, because he once rammed into the thing with his tender in the restored version of, coal. So I know he hates it, but I have quite the opposite. I love this station. I think Edward does too. Now, what exactly did Edward do to have his name Edward Station? I see a lot of characters here. Is it part of his branch line or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's literally the junction to his branch line. That's why it's Edward Station, is because Wellsworth...
And that's why we have Lemmy here, because he knows these things that I don't.
I mean, technically the junction is Suttery Junction, which is a little bit east of Wellsworth Station. But it functions as the junction station. So that's why it's called that. And that's the main thing I think of when I think of Edward Station, is the fact that it's the junction to Edward's branch line. And that's the main thing I like about it. I think in the show it's kind of an ugly station, I'm not going to lie. I don't like it that much. It's kind of big and towering, but in all the wrong ways. It feels kind of really... It's very big and bricky, but it doesn't have a lot of kind of elegant features to it. It's very towering.
I can't say I relate, but what's your number 5?
My number 5 is the Farquhar Sheds, which I'm just calling them that because there's... In the show, they're on the Tidmouth set, which I just refuse to acknowledge. I'm just going to pretend that they're next to Farquhar, because that makes way more sense. I really like these sheds. They're really cool, and I like how they have this length that they're not just the length of the engines. They're longer. They could hold maybe James if he stayed there, which might happen occasionally. The sheds themselves are really long. I've always loved how the implication of why one of them is a different color than the other two is because first they built Thomas's shed out of brick. A certain kind of brick, and then they built the other two as additions to Thomas's shed. And so the three of them, two of them are different colors from the first one because the first one is Thomas's. And I like that. I like that his shed has its own little flair and is different. and is easily distinguished from the others. I think it really does fit him, and I think they captured it pretty well in the show. Adapting it from the Railway series, obviously the yard's very different, and they got rid of the carriage sheds that are supposed to be on the right and stuff, but the sheds themselves, I've always loved the idea of having a place for Thomas, Percy, and Toby to convene, because they're the branch line engines, and the show, I like that even though they put Thomas and Percy at Tidmouth, they still have the Farquhar sheds for the stories that are about the branch line trio, and we have a symbol of those three. So because of that, I really like that location.
Yeah, I'm glad in the TV series they didn't just make this all Tidmouth Sheds stuff. It's cool to actually see that they adapted it.
Yeah, no, it is nice to have a symbol of the branch line, and where the branch line engines can talk to each other and interact. So I do really like that.
Alright, coming on now over to my number 4 is one not everyone might think about, but for me, it's just one of the most iconic things in Thomas. And it's literally the first freaking frame you see at the beginning of every episode if you're watching the theme song. It's the Windmill. And I mean the OG Windmill. I don't mean that fancy schmancy white windmill it's in like season 5, and later the one in season 8, or that frickin' Toby's Windmill. Like, who's Toby think he is? Why does he get Windmill? Who gave him that? How does he claim ownership? I say
the original Toby's Windmill is the intro Windmill, because it was, for some reason, Toby's
he used it for his branch.
Yeah, his old branch line is for some reason identical to the Farquhar branch. So
maybe that's why we never saw it in the later seasons. Maybe he got offended that he replaced him, and the Windmill just hovered away into the sky.
I think it's likely that Toby sued and they had it replaced. That's probably the most likely thing, knowing Toby.
No, it just spins its propellers around helicopters away.
And then it rampages the island boulder style.
You just see it saw Cranky in half as it's going through.
Oh my god. But
yeah, it's the OG one. I love the design. One of my favorite scenes of it, or one, of course, the intro. I mean, do I even have to say anything? It's the intro. And the scene of Percy passing by it in Ghost Train. Yeah, I'm a sucker for night scenes, if you couldn't tell.
This is a good example of how locations are different from buildings. Because the thing is, for me, I would definitely say one of my favorite locations, favorite sets in the show, is this windmill, or the windmill set. That's such a cool set. However, without what I love about it is you can see into the distance, it's like flat lands, and it's like swampy.
I know, right?
And it's like, I love that look, right? But that doesn't contribute to the windmill, because the windmill is just, in this context, just a single building. And so, on its own, I don't think it's enough to say it's one of my favorites.
The set adds a lot, but for me, if I had to own, one of the items from the show, this actually would be a pretty high one for me.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I like it because it's a symbol of the intro and a symbol of the set. Of course you want the windmill, come on. It's the same thing as wanting the Farquhar sign. It's that's why that whole situation is such a farce. It's because the Farquhar sign is a symbol of the intro. It's a symbol of Thomas, because it's the station that the intro ends at. And that's probably one of the most powerful symbols of Thomas and Friends you could ever possess. So the Farquhar sign means a lot more than just the card it's written on.
Definitely.
So it's the same thing with the windmill, where it's a very powerful symbol of Thomas. So I
also
do like
how the wooden railway version really nails it too.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that
an amazing model. I mean, they really just did a fantastic job.
You couldn't do the windmill any better in wooden railway. Anyways, what's your number 4?
So my number 4, this is going to be a surprise. It's at the Search and Rescue Center. It's the main building, the middle one in the middle. I've always loved that building. Yeah, it's got these roads leading up to the area where Flynn and I'm assuming Butch park, where they have their own little garage on top. It's got 2 levels. That's the level where they park, and then the lower level you have tracks running through, where engines I'm assuming can deliver goods that can be stored in there by flatbed or whatever. And you don't see this a lot, but you've got 2 or 3 shed berths going in the back of that building. So then Belle can sleep there, and Rocky can sleep there. It's really cool. It's a really cool structure. It's got all these places for engines to stay. It's got these sheds that are woven into different parts of the structure. It's got 2 levels, and it's got a decent section of road up on top, so you can actually see Flynn emerging from the building and then going down the ramp. It's like such a neat location.
Looking at it now, this is kind of an underrated destination, you know?
Yeah, I think it's really underrated. It's like, it's such a neat look. It's this big meaty structure, and it's got just it's got so many lines running through it, and it's got so much shed space. So it's like, I get the same vibe as like a lot of British sheds that are not like as extravagant as the ones we see in the show. They're just like rectangular. They have a flat roof and they have several berths. Very utilitarian, and I really like the look of that. And so because of that, I do love this building. It's such a cool thing. I'd love to have it produced by some merchandise range. Like if Wooden Railway did this and really did all the lines and the roads and stuff, that would be like one of the best destinations ever. So I would love.
Oh, this thing is begging for an awesome toy. Like that ramp, they could get. Like imagine if you could they open the door, okay? You put Flynn in, you push a button, it launches down the ramp, kind of like a Hot Wheel or something like that.
Yeah, you could add that. I mean, it would definitely do. I mean, it would be such a cool destination. I would love that. Ideally, I like a $300 set that would have literally all the buildings recreated perfectly. And they did a good job of recreating the Search and Rescue Center buildings in Wooden Railway. Those are some of their best destinations, but they could have done even better with this central building because it's such a cool building and it's got so many tracks, and that's what makes it neat. So I love it for that reason.
All right, moving on. We're going to talk about my number 3, and this one's good enough to me where I could put it at number 1. Kirk Ronan. This station is so cool.
I really struggled with that one. I almost put it as my number 5.
It's okay. It's such a massive. The decor is beautiful, by the way. I really like the white lighting mixed with the green.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. I consider that the cream and green color palette, I consider that Sodor's official building kind of paint job.
And it's kind of cool because it kind of matches the express coach, even though we see a lot of red coaches here.
And it just makes me think of stations like Tidmouth and Tidmouth Sheds. And the signal boxes, and everything's painted. Yeah. Everything's painted in that cream and green. I've always looked at that as the main color of the buildings that the railway owns. That's their official color.
I agree. And one thing I gotta say too is that I'm gonna talk a bit more about the outside of it, but I want to mention the inside because this is one of the few times you actually see the inside of a station too, aside from Sir Topham Hatt's office at Nafford. We get to see this fancy dining room thingy they have on the inside. That was cool. And Lace Hatt's birthday party. But one thing I want to say is, one thing you could detriment about the station is actually, Gordon hit the nail on the head. That wall kind of sucks. It's bleak, it's bland, there's no signs. And you look at the wall even prior to him crashing through it, in, the outside, in, the town section that's underneath. I mean, it looks really bleak and not very nice looking.
It's a shame because it looks like it would be such an amazing view. It's up on this hill, and so looking out, you probably could look over the whole town, and it would be really good looking.
It'd be a really nice balcony or something.
Yeah.
And then Gordon, my man, solves that problem. He rams through it, takes matters into his own hands or wheels, and gets this beautiful view. If you're looking for the town, you get this cool silhouette of an engine. And it's just, I love looking at that picture of Gordon looking through so happily at his view. I mean, it's cool. What other station are you going to see this in?
It adds so much character to that location that it has that opening story that added a landmark within the station. Such a great idea. I love that. It adds something to work with. It adds something to make the station meaningful. So that's fantastic. I really wish we would see more of it because it is amazing. But the reason I love it so much is kind of the one problem you had with it, which is the wall. It's the only terminating station that we really have.
Oh wait, you know what I was talking with the wall, but I do love how it ends.
Yeah,
it doesn't. People's engines stop here.
It's got 4 terminating roads. But basically, we don't have any terminating stations. And terminating stations look really cool. In the railway series, Tidmouth terminates. Tidmouth is the big station, and 4 of the roads terminate, and 1 goes through for Duck's Branch line. They don't all go through because the only thing behind the station is Duck's Branch. So, you don't need to send all the lines down there. And, so in the TV series, we don't get to see that. But Kirk Ronan actually represents that pretty well. It looks really cool how there's a platform at the back, all the lines end, and the only reason... I would probably look at this station a lot differently if this was different, but the only thing that I don't like about this building, really, is how ridiculously short the canopy is. Like, it needs to go... it can hold, like, one coach, two coaches. It needs to be able to...
Oh, you're right.
It's really gross. It's almost like it doesn't have a canopy at all. It needs to have, like... it hold at least, like, 6 coaches to be a proper station.
Make it more of, like, a Knapford-esque type thing.
Well, just... yeah, like the length, right? Like, because the thing is, it just doesn't serve its purpose, right? It's supposed to cover up the coaches and cover up the people when they're getting out on a rainy day. It doesn't do that. It only covers up the break coach, so the guard is in good shape.
It reminds me of, like, the football fields where, like, it's like it covers the crowd, but the players still get rained on.
Yeah, except, it's going to hurt your business. And that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't look good. I would like it to be longer. I love how the platforms extend so far past the actual, station awning. Like, I love how they do that. I just wish that the awning itself, the canopy itself, was longer, and then the platforms even moved out to suit that. Because I like how long the platforms are. Now, the reason they're that long, I think, is because the model makers were cheating, and they're like, well, we don't want to build this big canopy for the whole thing. We're just going to make a really long platform and then a tiny canopy, which some real stations, I think, have done. But it doesn't look good, right? I would like to have a longer canopy that covers all the coaches. That's a really neat look. And then have the platforms extend past that too, so they're still really long and look cool. That's the one thing I would say. If that were true, I would adore this station fully. Well, one other thing is I don't like where it's placed. The Kirk Ronan branch, I don't think needs something like... it doesn't need something this extravagant at the end. It really doesn't. And this would be... this station... I almost wish the show started with this as the big station. That would have been a really cool thing for them to do.
Imagine that in an alternate universe.
Like, that would be a lot better than Knapford, I think.
But the TV series map is really weird. Anyways, what's your number 3?
So, my number 3 is... you're going to be surprised by this one. It's Vickerstown Station.
I've seen various memes in regards to you with Vickerstown Station, so lay it on me.
So, here's the thing. It's ridiculously huge. Stupidly huge. There's no reason it should be that big. It needs like 2-3 lines. Does not need 8 lines. All through lines. Where are they going? Why do you need that many? Like, it's ridiculous.
For a little fun fact, when Lemmy made his Vickerstown Station for the movie of which we do not speak, it was huge, and he wore it like a turtle shell. I have witnessed this with my own eyes.
I did wear it like a turtle shell. Well, that's what making a movie that you end up hating does to you. It snaps your mind. You
want to wear Vickerstown Station as a turtle?
You wear the building as a... Ted has it for his profile picture of me on his phone. It's a long story. Look, we don't need to talk about this now. I'm not going to relive traumatic events. The point is, I wore Vickerstown Station as a turtle shell on my back. I know what I'm talking about. This station is huge. Ridiculously huge. It's literally 3 times the size of Knapford, which is the big station. That's what it's called.
This is the bigger station.
It would make sense, a little bit more sense, if this was like Barrow. If this was the actual terminus. Which it seems like they're kind of trying to do in the CGI series, so I'll give them points for that. They're making it the terminus. Because it would make sense as a terminus, but still, it ruins the big station, which is supposed to be the biggest station. That's the point of it. Tidmouth is the big station. And in Vickerstown dwarfs it entirely. And that ruins something that's really important about Knapford. It delegitimizes it. Now, all that being said, all of my hatred for all those things, I cannot deny that it is one of the most badass locations, most badass structures ever made in the show. It's one of the coolest structures. Yeah, it's huge. It doesn't make sense that it's massive, but it's cool that it's massive. It's got these huge bridges leading in. It's got all these tracks. It's like the color's really cool. I'm not a huge fan of the big carnival sign that they put on the front that says Vickerstown. That's kind of goofy. However, the structure of the station is awesome. It's got this big overall canopy that's all brick. and it slowly curves down to the sides, and it's just the whole thing is raised. You know, the station is raised. The bridges are raised. The whole thing, it's massive, it's awesome, and we finally got to see Vicarstown. You know, I've wanted to see that my whole life. I've always known it's there, but they've never showed us. And I'm like, how do you not show us the last station on the island? How do you not show that to us? And they finally did, and it's the coolest thing. It's like so awesome to look at. So I cannot knock it. It's like, I hate it functionally, but I love it aesthetically.
It's cool seeing, like, the engines. Like, you're so used to seeing the engines as, like, the big, massive thing, and then you see, like, overview pictures, and they look so small in comparison to this hulking station.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's by far one of the most memorable locations out of the CGI era, and one of the most memorable stations in the show, period. This thing is giant. It reminds me a lot of, kind of weird parallel. Like, you're talking about how it was big, but it makes no sense, but it's just really cool. That's how I am with, like, the pier, or the docking area in, like, Special Attraction. Whereas, like, Bulstrode is supposed to be, like, right up next to, like... He's supposed to be, like, right up next to it, and then, it's supposed to be for unloading, like, the truck stuff over into the boat. Why is it massive?
Yeah.
Like, the size of, like, if you stack up, like, 3 or 4 Bulstrodes up, like, I don't understand why it's so high up. But I won't deny, it looks incredible. I love it, but it makes no sense.
So, Multi, without further ado, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is one that, it's iconic, and it's going to be in almost every Wind Railway series you see. It is none other than Knapford Station.
Interesting.
I'm not going to take very long on this. Basically, it's Knapford. It's iconic. I love it's kind of the opposite of things I like about Kirk Ronan. I love how it goes through. It's kind of like the main hub hangout area. I like it. Honestly, I like it better than Tidmouth Sheds, honestly. I love its colors, the aesthetic. The canopies are so freaking cool. Just almost everything about this area just screams yes to me. Like I said, like, the canopies are just so natural. The colors, the office is so iconic. So many memorable moments in here. Good day shots, night shots. I just love it. I might be biased because it's just used for so many things, but I mean, there's a reason why it deserves so much recognition. It was used for many shots. It's a beautiful station.
So, I do like it, but there's a lot that kind of annoys me about it. The thing is, I will say it's probably the single most important location in Thomas, and the single most important building in Thomas, because it's just like, it's Knapford Station. Come on, it's the big station. But it inherited that title from its older brother, Tidmouth, that it stole the title from, and then became famous to the world as.
Tidmouth is the Knapford is the Undertaker.
Yes, and when I say Tidmouth, I mean Railway Series Tidmouth. TV series Tidmouth is a whole other bag of worms. But bag of worms, is that right? Can of worms, not bag of worms.
Bag of worms.
Yeah. So basically, the thing is, Knapford is pretty neat, but there's a lot that frustrates me about it. Like, it sends 4 lines behind the station, 2 terminating lines. That's something. It just seems like it doesn't need all those through lines. The only one in the railway series in the big station is for Duck's Branch Line, because there's somewhere you gotta go. But these 4 lines...
This railway don't do sense.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it's like... And also, I have to say, I don't like the canopies. I get the same vibe off of the TV series Knapford Station that I get when I look at an alien versus a human. Like, an alien with, like, 4 eyes, and it's like, it's kind of like goofy looking, like a cartoon alien. That's the vibe I get off of the TV series Knapford Station. The amount of canopies it has and the size of them is really unusual for stations. They don't usually have those really tiny canopies and several of them all in a row like that. That's kind of like, it's kind of a neat look, but it's very alien. It doesn't really look like anything I've seen.
And I like that, because it really makes it unique,
Yeah, in the same way that you could give Thomas 3 funnels, or Merlin 3 funnels, and it's like,
I like it in a cool way. It's subjective whether you like it that way or not.
That's the thing. It's like, a lot of people, I'm sure, look at, say, Merlin and his 3 funnels and think, wow, that's really cool, that's really different. Like, Merlin's funnels, I'm like, okay, I get the story purpose for them, but it makes him look so much worse. To its credit, there are a few that kind of have that. Like, I think Paddington has 4 canopies, but they vary in size. It's built on a curve, so it looks a little bit more normal, and some of them are big and some of them are small, so it's a little bit different. So Knapford in the TV series, if I get in a TV series mindset and appreciate what it means and why it's important and everything, well, then that's different. Then I really do appreciate the station, and it is fundamental to the show. So it really depends on how I'm looking at it, but if I'm to just talk about pure aesthetics, that's where I'm at.
Alrighty, well, how about your number 2 then?
My number 2 is Tidmouth Sheds, but a very specific Tidmouth Sheds. Like, I've liked it all the way through the show, but in the beginning especially. I love before they raised the roof, because later on they raised the roof.
They raised the roof, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first.
They raised the roof on Tidmouth Sheds and gave it this really ugly forehead. Like it between the doors and the top of the roof, there's this weird gap, and it's like, why is that there? Like, I don't like that. And again, that color palette, right? Cream and green. You know, the Sheds have that, and I really love it. Love the look of the doors. That the doors are green accents the roof and windows really well.
Always love the addition in the TV show. This is a small thing, feels like, but whenever they had like a tunnel or like a doorway, they would make extra note to put a little bit of black right above the doorway, from where all the smoke goes up and stuff. That's a really nice detail.
I always loved that. It's just got this. It's on this very subtle curve that is curving towards the turntable. It doesn't curve around the turntable. It just curves subtly, and the tracks lead into the turntable. And I love the look of that. It's perfect for all the characters to be on screen at the same time. It's just... And I love just engine maintenance and storage facilities like that, where just a big engine like Gordon can come in there and they can clear out his firebox and they can maintain him and polish him. And it's like it's a working, functioning, piece of equipment, essentially, for the railway.
All right, so... I guess it's about time to get to my number 1. And, well, let's go ahead and get started in this. My number 1 is the number 1 place I would like to visit. I have dreamed about this place. It literally, at least twice now, I've dreamt of this place. Shining Time Station.
It is a really cool looking station.
It is freaking beautiful. Apparently this was a real station that they redressed, and I need to add that to my bucket list of going to this actual station someday. But this... Okay, the exterior is already beautiful. My favorite thing of it is that one shot where you have Thomas and Lady next to it, and you got Mr. Conductor on the platform. One of the best Thomas pictures ever. It's a
shame we never saw Thomas actually get to go there. Like, we were just...
Yeah, but I'd like to think this scene happened. But the inside is really cool. I mean, it's just such a happy, magical little place you dream about going to. You got Stacy there, and I used to imagine when I was a kid, like, what does Mr. Conductor's house, like, the inside of it look at? And
I always wanted to know that.
Number 1 spot I would love to go to. And like I said, it's been in my dreams. I've seen this thing around fast food places. Like, it would be just in a town. It's just there. I go inside, and, like, why? I don't understand. Why is this it's near on this spot?
I'm not surprised at all that you would put it that high. For me, it's like, it's not too high on my list, but I still do adore it. It's like, because the thing is, what I love about Shining Time is just that it gives us a hub for all that, like, magic activity. Like, we have a location to tie Lady to, a location for her to show up at, a location for, like, if you want to write Lady stories that take place in America, then that's a location you have to work with. Without Shining Time, we don't have that. It's like, if you want Thomas to travel on the Magic Railroad and go to America, well, where does he go? Shining Time is a perfect place for that. And that station is just like, it's nice that we have a symbolic station of that area and of that, of the Magic Railroad, really, that is kind of the other end to the Magic Railroad.
Yeah. I mean, heck, Mr. Conductor lives here.
Yeah. It's a really cool place. It's like, if I were to do a list of like all the most significant places ever introduced in Thomas, I think that's a really big one. It matters a lot. Kind of like how Scotsman and Stepney don't show up that much, but in terms of important locomotives, they're like really high up there because of the significance that they have. And Shining Time is the same way, but for buildings. I think it's such an important place.
So, in short, your own imagination is waiting there for you.
True, and we'll never be able to go there for real, so we'll never be able to get our...
I will build a replica and make some authentic magical replica thing. How do I replicate magic? With science, of course.
Alright, so My number
imagine,
one.
Imagine like a Disney World attraction, like a magic, or like a Shining Time you go into, and they had like little effects. To make
Imagine if they literally did put that kind of money into it and recreated like 5 or 6 of the engines from Sodor, like the principal team of engines, like they had 1 through 6.
Tune in for a future installment where we have top 5 things we would want to see at a Thomas Land. So anyways, I think we've rambled about Shining Time long enough. It is amazing. It deserves it. But anyways, what's your number one?
So, my number one is, and I'm just kind of surprised by this, it's Tidmouth Station. I've always really loved that building. It looks nothing like it does in the Railway series. Like that, I'm just going to say that right now in case it's misleading, is that it doesn't look anything like it. It's way too small. But I have to say, there's something about this station that I've always really, really loved. I've liked it more than Knapford because it looks like a more natural station to me, even though it's smaller. It's like, it's got 2 canopies. It's got some, pretty clearly defined structures on either side, with offices in them or whatever. It's got platforms, and the platforms extend past the buildings in a really nice way. Kind of the same way that they do on Kirk Ronan, but not as severe. And the canopy, though it's not that long, is long enough that you could reasonably see it covering a few coaches. I would love to see someone do a version of this station that's like maybe twice the length, and then you could really keep a lot of coaches in there. Just the general aesthetic of it. And it does something that I really wish Knapford did, which is it carries on the cream and green livery, that we see on a lot of other stuff. And the reason I love Kirk Ronan so much, well, Tidmouth almost started that trend. Tidmouth has that cream and green livery all the way. I love how at the side, the place where passengers enter the station, you've got the canopy basically breaks off, and then it's like a similar canopy to the ones at the front that goes perpendicular on the side, that is kind of, over the entrance. That's a really cool look, and it's like, it'd be awesome to walk into. Even though it's small, I kind of would have preferred if maybe they took this design and made it a little bit bigger and kind of, a little bit grander and more capable of sustaining traffic. I would have really liked to see this as the big station, because I feel like they were almost kind of trying to kind of make a more proper big station that was more like the Railway series when they introduced Tidmouth, but it was kind of too late because they already did Knapford. And so now the show has no idea what to do with Tidmouth, because it's like, well, it's not the big station, but it's also supposed to be north of Knapford, and Knapford's the terminus, so what is Tidmouth doing? Is it just another station on Duck's branch line? So it's a shame, because I like mainline engines being able to go there. I think that's really cool. So it's a little bit messy. But overall, I love the aesthetic of this station. I think it's so beautiful. It's one of the sets that inspired me the most all my life. I don't know quite why. There's something about it that's so cool. It feels like a place that's really, it feels really fitting for big engines to be using it. That's the vibe I get off of it.
It is a darn good location. I mean, the crew's kind of incompetent with how they handle the beehives, but besides that, pretty dope station.
Yeah, no, I definitely love the look of it.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyways, that's going to conclude this list. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. As always, let us know some of your favorite buildings from the TV show or Railway series, and give us some ideas if you have some ideas of what we could use for a future episode on the channel.
Yeah, please do. I mean, suggestions are always very helpful.
Yeah, it helps us a lot. It really does. Anyways, this has been Thomas Top 10s here on TWR Community Radio. I have been MultiGreenThunder.
And I've been Master of the Lemons.
And you guys all have a great night or day or whatever time you're watching this. See ya!
See you guys.